Okay. Question, you raise your hand.
How you doing? My name is Reverend Samuel Lassiter, and I'm a native of Pittsburgh. I listened to all of you and what you have to say, and I want to educate you on something. Number one, for those of you that don't know, right behind Elizabeth Pizza is a trailer park. I grew up in that trailer park. That's not affordable housing. We don't need to look at that as being affordable housing. When I was a kid, I used to play in a place called the Project that is now surrounded by Mays Farm. That's not affordable housing. That's a place we have to leave. There was a place called Browntown that was right across from Chatham Mills that black people owned. Now we don't. That's not affordable housing. But you're all running on affordable housing. Where are you gonna put it? Because you're pushing us out of town. So the only way that we're gonna have affordable housing is outside the city limits. Because you have some of you live in Chatham Forest, some of you may live in Mays Farm. But where do we live? You send us to behind Lowe's Food, you build an apartment complex there. And that's supposed to make us happy. Then you turn around, but right across the street from that are $300,000 homes. The reason why black people aren't moving to Pittsburgh, they can't afford to. You got the prices too high. So how are you gonna fix affordable housing? That's number one. Give me one more. That's number one. Number two, I wanna address this. Mr. J, you said your parents and grandparents never said anything to you about that statute. I can remember when we couldn't go to certain stores in Pittsburgh because we were black. It's not the statute that means a lot, it's what people's hearts mean. Now, somebody said, put a statue up of Mr. Harden. Why don't y'all build a Boys and Girls Club?
There you go.
With Mr. Harden anyway. You gotta think out of the box. Y'all say y'all want to help the inner city, but you're pushing us out. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and that'll segue nicely into this question. I've got a lot of questions here. But what is your definition of affordable housing? And this person writes, I understand all candidates feel affordable housing is important. However, how do you make it happen? You buy land, where do you put it? Is there anything in town to buy? So let's address this definition of affordable housing and positive steps that can be taken toward it.
So, thank you, Reverend Lassiter, for those comments and for the question, how do we fix this problem of the lack of affordable housing? Something that I've really admired in Jim Noss's leadership is, he and I agree that the idea of putting a whole lot of affordable housing all in one location, we used to call it the projects, is something I don't want to invest in. I don't think we should invest in. Instead, I would like us to invest in a great diversity of different approaches. Defining affordable housing is challenging. It's also really wonky and detailed, and it's about policy and words on page and attorneys and federal rules and stuff. So I'm not going to go that deep. But I will point out that the problem is complex, and that means it's got many different facets to it, like a diamond. You've got situations where folks are in housing currently that is not healthy. And we need to help people remain in their houses as long as they choose to stay in those houses by fixing the roof or helping seal up the windows or improving other problems with the houses. We have a lack of affordable rentals. We have a lack of affordable houses for purchase. There's a need for subsidies, but there's also a need to work with developers to encourage them to build more of what I call market rate affordable housing, because when a developer says a $250,000 house is affordable, I need to help them understand where I've come from and where people I know, teachers and police officers, That's not affordable. That's not affordable. It may be market rate, but we've got to do better, and we've got to challenge ourselves and challenge our developers to build something different that will allow people to get into a house that's sub 100,000. There are lots of different ideas being kicked around. The mayor's task force is working on this. I look forward to seeing that. I think that the conversation is going to need to go further, because we will need to work with developers in ways that challenge them and their desire for profit. Maybe we can address their risk. I don't know what those details are, but I'm confident that the task force has been working on it, and several of the candidates here as well. So thank you for that opportunity to speak.
Affordable housing is defined as housing for people that are making 80% or less of the average median income. Now, in this problem with Chatham County is, we're counted in with Chapel Hill and Durham. So this makes us look like we are a lot higher in average median income than we actually are. I've worked with a lot of builders and developers who would come in and build affordable housing, but they need to keep their cost 20% or less of the base before they start, okay? I'm talking about land costs, utilities, hookups, permits, and all that. Needs to be 20% of the actual price that they're going to sell for in the end. So if it costs them $80,000 to get a prepared lot with all the approvals and everything, they're going to have to build a $300,000 home. And that's what they generally do. They would build smaller ones, like someone said, where in town can they find a place that they can buy the land cheap enough? And I know that the mayor's task force is working on ideas for incentives for builders who could come in and build it'd be market-based, but a lower part of the market. 80%, how about 60% of AMI, 50% of AMI? And I know Kyle and I are both on the Affordable Housing Board for the county, and we're struggling with the same thing. In Chatham County, there's one person, Stephanie Watkins Cruz. I don't know if anyone knows her. She is the housing office for Chatham County. She's everything. She's cook, crew, and boss. She's the whole thing. And she's working very hard and coming up with some ideas that we may be able to put to the commissioners that we can help get that solved. But Habitat for Humanity and others take care of the bottom slice, okay? If you got $350,000, $400,000, you can go find that, buy it today. But the middle, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. There's probably one home for sale in Pittsboro within that middle range. There's no rentals, none whatsoever.
That's right.
Get calls and people want to rent. That's the reason when I moved to Chatham County, I bought a house out in Silk Hope because I couldn't find anything to rent or buy in Pittsboro. So I waited 11 years and finally came up on one and moved into Chatham Forest. But it is a tough problem. It's going to be hard to solve, but we are working on it. And like I said, I've served 3 times on the County Affordable Housing Board. And for the first time now, I feel like we are getting somewhere. And I'm kind of excited about that.
Well, I guess the first part of your question is, what is affordable housing? And I think it is. It's homes that are not overdone, perhaps. And I know that there are a lot of fixed costs with building, and that is why most builders want to spend more when they build their house and sell it for more. I think that it's something that the board and the town can look at, working with builders to help with those fixed costs so that more affordable homes can be built. And I know that affordable homes also, it's important that they are within a reasonable distance of available jobs. because having an affordable home is wonderful. When I moved here to Pittsburgh, we moved to the city, and we had one car that the family shared. And we finally got a second car, we're back down to one car. And, you know, I could walk here, thank goodness I could, because someone else needed to use the car to get to work. And so that's also very important. So the location of these homes needs to be within all the other homes and all the other businesses that are being built. I think that's probably the most important factor.
But agree, of course, with a lot of what's already said. There is a federal definition of affordable housing, and like I said, it doesn't fit Chatham County that well. There is also just what some might call workforce housing, or general housing for people that have regular jobs. And that's what I think that Pittsburgh especially is really short on. There's a very tiny amount of naturally occurring affordable housing. Most of it relies on some type of subsidy or program to make it affordable. I've worked in those programs, rebuilding together to keep people in their homes that they currently own and upgrade them. You know, Habitat for Humanity building new homes, but there's different solutions, and part of that is allowing multifamily on. There is some lots around town that are available. Most of them are owned by investors or people that are hoping to, you know, make money on them later. So if there was allowed to be multiple units on those small pieces of land, we could really impact the housing. That's part of what I've seen on the planning board, is there is people interested in doing that, and we have to make it more friendly for them to be able to do it and be compatible with the existing neighborhood that's out there now.
So Reverend Lassiter, I was the first candidate up here who said just what you said, that we built a community, stuck it back in the back of Lowe's, we labeled them with big government symbols, and that's our answer to affordable housing. I share your concerns about that, and I think there are some solutions that are currently being worked on with the Affordable Task Force, and one is that we don't impose a penalty on developers necessarily, but they could contribute to a fund, and that's already been put out there. The dollar amount is unclear at this point. Is it $100 a unit? Is it $200 a unit? And what is that solution? But that could go into a fund so that, you know, I'm a single mother of 4. I also am a renter in Pittsburgh. I can't purchase a home. But if I could participate in a fund and then choose to live wherever, not have housing defined for us, where we're segregating further a population of people that we're claiming we want to help. So I think that's a really important solution that can be done now, and it's being discussed on a town board level. And we should be working with the county on their affordable housing solutions so that we can take advantage of that, because again, we still do not have the broad tax base that's going to bring corporate dollars in to subsidize our affordable housing solutions. Jobs. What a better way to help resolve our affordable housing solutions, but to provide living wages. Now, corporations need to see more rooftops before they're going to come into our little town. Currently, our Economic Development Corporation is trying to recruit just another grocery store. They need to see more rooftops before they can build another grocery store. So we have like challenges like that. But at some point, there's going to be a tipping of the scales. And we're going to have to work with corporations and nonprofits on creative solutions. I know there was a lot of complaints about Walmart in Chatham County, but Walmart's offering like $14 and $15 an hour plus benefits. Hardly any of us business owners in downtown Pittsburgh can offer, you know, benefits. So it's true that bringing in corporate headquarters to our new developments and recruiting our corporation headquarters will be helpful, but we also are going to need the brick and mortar Hobby Lobbies and Office Depots, which doesn't bother me at all as a little coffee shop. If there's an Office Depot close, I'll be able to get my supplies at a closer location. And they're also supplying jobs with living wages. My son, who is an adult with autism, works at Office Depot and makes $12.50 an hour and has benefits. So I think that's just the beginning, is jobs and not segregating further our community.
As one of the segregated ones, as I live in Belmont Point Apartments, I'm having a little problem with it. There are more than just people of color who live in Belmont Point Apartments. There are people of a diverse group that live there. And we get along fine until we have the rebel flag that showed up yesterday. 2 rebel flags on a pickup truck driving through. That was as insulting. I can't say it was as insulting to me as it was to the African Americans that were standing there when it came through. Because I don't know. I can't say I know how they feel. Because I don't. I know what it is to be poor. I don't know what it is to be black. But I can empathize as a widow who lived in one of those mobile homes that can't be called affordable housing because it was falling down around me. When my husband died, I was able to move, thank God, to Belmont Point Apartments. I don't feel like I'm stuck in a hole because I'm behind Lowe's Home Improvement. There's a road that's going to keep on going. And one of these days, there's places to be developed on the other side. We are not the end of that road. We are the beginning of that road. And people there are proud to be there. It's an award-winning place. They have been nationally recognized. And I'm sorry I'm getting a little emotional, but I was down to water dripping on my head at night before I got to Belmont Point Apartments. So I can feel part of what you guys are saying, but don't belittle what we've already got. Let's build on what we've got. And we do need to get manufacturers here, big business here, and we need to annex Chatham Park. Right now, don't wait. That would automatically give us a tax base that we don't have. But, you know, we can talk about these things and talk them to death, and we will get nowhere. I mean, people just keep talking, and they want another study, they want something else. Stop it. Do what needs to be done now. Because it's not if we're going to grow, y'all. It's how we're going to do it. And we need to be up there and on top of it and pay attention. But I love my neighbors. And I am my brother's keeper.
Thanks, ma'am. Myself, I'm really looking forward to the recommendations from the task force. I know as a board member, we have discussed the density for affordable housing. We've looked at incentives for contractors, contractor payment in lieu, fee reductions, anything that can drop the cost of contractors. That's the bottom line to get affordable housing down, is get the contractors set on a profit, but we have to get their building supplies. It could be land, but we are definitely looking into all these situations, but I am looking to hear from the recommendations from the task force.
Thank you, Jay. Affordable housing is a huge problem here in Pittsburgh, and it's a huge problem across this nation, in community after community. And we've researched affordable housing programs in almost every state in this country, trying to say, surely somebody has figured out how to do this right. And we could look at what they've got and say, yep, here it is. Well, turns out nobody has got it right yet. We're working hard to do that. One thing I would tell you is that we have a new affordable housing project coming to Pittsburgh. right down by the post office, within walking distance of the food line, that will have 49 units and has being built with a 9% tax credit program by well-renowned builders. One of the things our task force set out as a principle from the very beginning is that we want affordable housing that's built into the communities, that aren't isolated. And Pam is absolutely right. That project that she's talking about is not going to be isolated. It's going to be the beginning of a significant thing. And so we've been struggling with this idea of how do we incentivize these builders to put up affordable housing and have it built into the communities where they're building. And we decided that incentives are the way to go. We're trying to figure out how we structure those incentives, because under our wonderful North Carolina laws, we can require a builder to provide affordable housing. It would be nice if we could have the Board of Commissioners pass a bill, pass a law that said that if you're going to build here, 10%, 15% of your units have to be affordable. Can't do that in the state of North Carolina. And Durham was able to get a special piece of legislation passed in their legislature, state legislature, that gave them that specific authority.
That's right.
They were able to get that done. And, you know, we've looked at, hey, is that something that we might be able to do here in Chatham County? But not counting on that, the key for us is anybody that wants to, that's working in Pittsburgh and wants to live here should be able to afford to do so. Anybody that just plain wants to live here should be able to afford to do that. Will it be easy? No. It's going to take some money. This natural occurring affordable housing that people talk about is welcome, but it can change from affordable to not affordable next month when the rent goes up. And the key thing about a good affordable housing program is that you lock that affordability in for 20, 30 years so that you just can't reap the benefit, let's say, of an incentive program, build something that's affordable, and then next year say, well, you know, that rent used to be $800, now I want $1,600. All of a sudden, it's not affordable anymore. So we have to develop it so it keeps being affordable over time. We're open. I think this town, Board of Commissioners open, the pocket neighborhoods, the small house movement, all of those kinds of things are on the table. And I believe me when I tell you that being creative is the key to this whole proposition. You can't look at a model and say, let's pick this one up and replicate it here. We just have to take pieces from each one. But we've got a dedicated group of people working on this, both at the county and the town level. And I am confident that within the next while, we're going to have a set of proposals that is going to get this thing off and running. People want to come here to build affordable housing if we can get this right and get the incentive package right. And I don't mean affordable housing that's, you know, like we think of from the old days. I'm talking about high quality stuff that is in town, that it's easy for people to get to and get around. So all I can say is that as mayor, I will have the, one of the powers of the mayor is getting to get things on the agenda. And I can tell you that affordable housing will be on the agenda on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you. That's a big topic. It's on this as well, a little bit. But what are your priorities for the board? Is it the safe water, environmental, housing? And as far as your priorities, what are the obstacles to these priorities and what are the opportunities?
Excuse me, I think that was my question. Can I add to it?
Sure, you want to add to
So,
it?
yeah, I want to add to it. So when I talk to the board, which I do, not to the board or to the town, a lot of times I get great answers, real quick feedback, but I get a lot of, we don't have this ready, we don't have this done, we dropped the ball, we got sidetracked with this, oh, it's on our agenda, oh, it's on our agenda, it's on our agenda. So it seems like there are a lot of great priorities, but when everything is P1, nothing is P1. So if you can only have one project that's your pet project that you can actually see from beginning to end, and I know there's so many, affordable housing is important, our water is important, our roads are important, there's so many, but if there's one priority for you that you can actually see accomplished, because there seems to be a lot of priorities that have gotten started, and that's kind of where they stop. What would those priorities be? So that's kind of how I want to clarify that question that I asked.
Okay, so I gather from your question, you're looking for a number one priority.
Number one priority, yes.
A number one priority. Well, for me, the number one priority is managing on the growth, particularly as it relates to Chatham Park. Get that done. We've talked it, and we've talked it, and we've talked it. That needs to get accomplished, get done, we need a developer's agreement done, and we need them annexed so they start paying taxes to Pittsburgh. But that's my number one.
Thanks, Jim. Very good question. I don't know how you prioritize all the issues that the town has, but I'm just gonna, keep it kind of short. I think that one of our top priorities is getting the UDO finished. As everybody knows, we do not have a tree protection in the town of Pittsburgh. And, but we need to go ahead and get this UDO finalized and move forward with that. That's my top priority.
Excuse me, what's UDO?
United Development Ordinance. Unified, I'm sorry. That's the same, isn't it?
Sounds good to me. My top priority, before anything else gets started, we need a couple of people to work for this town that can help with the permits and all this stuff. You know, it's all well and good to, yeah, we need staff. We need at least 2 people. I mean, it's all well and good to say, well, we'll prioritize this and we'll get it done. Well, not if we don't have help. If we don't have somebody Monday through Friday that's helping move those permits along and get the information to people who need it. I think we need 2 people to work in the office.
We have applications out for 2 employees.
You're a good man,
Yeah.
Jay Farrell.
They not been hired though.
So that would be my first priority, and then I would go to the water.
So I'm on record as saying that the Unified Development Ordinance is my number one priority. Affordable housing, the safety of our roads, the safety of our water, affordable housing, all of these ordinances are encompassed in the Unified Development Ordinance, and we must pass that document. How do we achieve that? By having a board who can work together. If you have board members with a singular view, I'm concerned about continued stalemates